Welcome to Giant Cocktails, a podcast where two lifelong fans talk about the San Francisco Giants while drinking homemade cocktails. Now, here are your hosts, Ben and Matthew Henry.
Welcome to another episode of Giant Cocktails. I am your host, Ben Henry, alongside my brother, the recidivist, Matthew Henry. How you doing, Matthew?
Recidivist?
Yeah, recidivist.
I haven't even been arrested once.
Well, believe it or not, recidivism can be applied to many different things.
Really? It never is, though.
I don't know. I didn't even look it up in the dictionary. I just saw it on the thesaurus list and popped up, and I'm like, oh, that's the word. That's the word. But you know what it means, Matthew? It means you're a repeat offender. Because yeah. Because you know what you are, Matthew?
What?
You're 2 games under 500 again.
Oh, yeah. That does sound like a repeat offense. Yeah.
I mean, you're a loser. You're not a big loser like me. But you're still a loser. And, I had such hopes for you because you were 2 games above 500. And I got to tell you, then you're a winner.
And it felt good. It felt good to be a winner. But now I'm right back. Recidivism sucks, man.
You lost 4 in a row. You went into the convenience store and you couldn't just leave the Tic Tacs on the counter.
No. Had to
slip them into your pocket.
They were the orange ones too, not even like the mint ones.
Not even the good ones. And you know what? Because of 3 strikes, man, you're going to go to prison for the rest of your life. And you deserve it.
Oh man, it's like being a Giants fan for the rest of your life.
Yeah. You just think, oh, I'm about to make parole. I'm about to get out. I'm going to, everything's looking up. And then boom, the Popos show up and they're like, Mr. Henry, we know what you did 3 years ago, and then the statute of limitations run out tomorrow. And there you are. You're back in the pokey. That's what it's like to be a Giants fan.
It is. Can't think of a better way to describe it.
It does. Yeah, it's actually, I just kind of stumbled on this accidentally, but this actually does feel really accurate, doesn't it? Oh, brutal, man. Brutal. But you know what, though? Look. This is what happens when you go hanging out with people who are clearly better than you.
Oh,
right?
Right. The true you gets exposed.
The true you gets exposed, right? You go hang out with some really nice people in their pinstripe suits. And I know they were wearing their road grays, but go with me on this one.
Okay.
They show up in their nice pinstripe suits and there you are, in your creamsicles.
Yeah.
Your ice cream parlor uniform, and you can't help it. You can't help it. You refuse to scoop ice cream anymore, and you decide to be the wheelman. And what happens? You get shot.
Man, being a Giants fan sucks.
Yeah. Heat is such a good movie. Check that one out if you haven't seen it yet, folks. Heat. But anyway, we got to move on, Matthew. We got to move on because we're on a tight schedule today. Why today? I don't know. But we are on a tight schedule today, and I have to ask you the icebreaker question. And so I just want you to know, I just pulled this one off of random. I was trying to look for like corporate questions because I thought that would be funny.
Yeah.
If we did like some businessy type icebreaker questions.
Okay.
So here we go. So this is what I got. You ready?
Okay. Yes.
All right. What's a hobby or activity you enjoyed before being incarcerated?
Wait, what?
Wait.
Are you sure this was a question on a website?
Yeah. Well, if ChatGPT is a website, you know what? I didn't read everything that, fatal ChatGPT flaw, right? Yeah. But you know what? Funnily, it fits with the theme of the show.
So a hobby that I enjoyed before being incarcerated was, I'm sure a common answer to that was like breaking the law.
Sure. Yeah, I really enjoyed
doing the drugs,
stealing Tic Tacs,
stealing the things. You know, I mean, one of those.
Yeah.
But a Giants fan, it would have been what the hobby would have been. I enjoyed getting drunk while watching the Giants play.
I enjoyed being an A's fan. I mean, that can't be right.
No.
I know what it is. No, I know what it is. I enjoyed being a Warriors fan. Or a 49ers fan, or whatever sport is the other, on off season.
That actually wins.
Definitely not a Sharks fan.
Exactly.
The Sharks had something good happen to them.
No,
they were the worst team in hockey, so now they get to have the
number one pick in the draft.
The number one pick, who weirdly enough is related to the head of the medical team and the Warriors.
Oh,
he's his son. Weird. Anyway. Today is Sunday, June 2nd, as we record this podcast. It has been 2 weeks since I got sick, and clearly, I'm still not 100%. It's lame. It sucks. I hate it. But I hate more that your San Francisco Giants went 2-4 this week to bring their record to 29-31.
It's hard work being average.
Bob. Yeah.
Well, it's true. Bob
That's true. It's true. Yeah, you know what, Bob? Thank you for keeping things light. I mean, it is hard work, especially hard on us fans.
Yes.
In this particular case, we had to go through a 4-game losing streak to get back to just slightly below average. Because things were looking so up on this road trip. Right? We took 2 out of 3 against one of the best teams in baseball. And 2 of those wins were against Bryce Harper, and even on the game they won, he looked like a fool. Things were just looking so good.
No, and Ben, correction. He looked like a whiny bitch.
Oh, that's right. You're right. I'm sorry. Yes, that is what he
we
looked like.
established that in the last
episode.
We
established that very clearly. You were right. Yeah, but then the Yankees come in with their stupid first and second best hitters in all of baseball. Do you know, Matthew, if everything was fair and equal, do you know who your second best hitter, what rank they should be, the highest possible rank?
Like, I would guess 31, right? Because
31, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. The stupid Yankees have number 2. The second best hitter in terms of weighted runs created plus for qualified hitters is Juan Soto, right after Aaron Judge.
So Aaron Judge is number 1, and Juan Soto's number 2?
Juan Soto's number 2, yeah. Or the other way around. I really don't care.
It doesn't really matter. But it certainly feels that way when they're coming up, that's for sure.
Exactly. It doesn't matter when they're coming up, right? And I don't care enough to actually go look at this other tab that I could just do with a click of my mouse. Because the point is, they're number 1 and number 2. And the Giants have, guess how many players the Giants have in the top 30?
Are we talking qualified players?
Qualified. Yes, qualified.
I would guess 0.
Yeah, it's 0 because we don't actually have that many guys who even qualify. Which, I don't really blame on anybody. Except their horrible bodies.
Yes, the injuries.
But if you do it by 100 at-bats, Lamont Wade Jr. is the 12th best hitter in baseball. Better than Mookie Betts. And then this guy named David Fry is number 1.
Good old David.
Yeah, David, 28-year-old. He was a 27-year-old rookie last year, and now he's 28, and he's the best hitter in all of baseball. Weird. But anyway, point is, Giants don't have good hitters, and it sucks. And it really sucks when, you fight, and you scratch, and you claw, and then these 2 jokers just come up. And then maybe Volpe gets a single in there. And then they just, boom, home run, boom, triple, boom, ground rule double. And you're just like, and as a fan, you're not even surprised.
No, you're not. I mean, it's resignation is what it is.
Right.
That's
right.
That's the feeling.
Right. Well, so that's where we are, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. Because you know what? We know we don't have a great offense, Matthew. We know that.
Yeah. We know we don't have Juan Soto.
That's right. We know that. And it's like, you can't, yeah, exactly. We don't have 5 of the top 30 players like the Dodgers do. True story. Qualified. Teoscar Hernandez is number 28. Ugh. Ugh. But anyway, but you know what we are supposed to have, Matthew?
Good pitching staff.
Good pitching. So that's what we're talking about today. We're going to talk about Blake Snell one last time. We're going to teach him how to say goodbye. Sorry, Matthew.
I don't even know what song you're singing.
That was a Hamilton reference, but I can't sing right now. I can't sing ever. Can't sing. It's a George Washington. And
that's right.
Anyway,
okay.
whatever. And then we're going to talk about, more importantly, how our pitching, while it has been decent at times, especially when you remove Blake Snell and Dalton Jeffries from the stats, things look a lot better. But you know what? They haven't been clutch. They haven't stepped up in the big moment. They haven't lifted and carried the team. And so that's what we're talking about today, the pitching. But before we get to any of that, you have to ask us our trivia question.
That's right. So you have been referring to Brett Wisely as Mr. Zero.
Mr. Zero.
And partly because of your the talent level that I think you ascribe to him.
That's how much I expect from him offensively. Zero.
Okay. But then also that's the number that he happens to wear, right? So
yeah, it's a double,
Yes, I get it. So that begs the question. Today's trivia question is, who is the only other player to wear 0 as a San Francisco Giant?
That would be AJ Pierzynski.
I could see how you would think that.
Yeah.
I could see. Yeah. Yes.
No, he might have been -1. I'll have to double check. But I'm sticking with it. AJ Pierzynski, that's my guess. The other 0.
All right. We will find out how wrong Ben is at the end of the episode.
Enough with the banter. Let's talk cocktails.
Let's talk cocktails, Bob.
What are you drinking, Ben?
Well, thank you for asking, Bob. That's very kind of you. Bob, as you know, I have been sick. And you know that. You live here. We need to talk about that, by the way. But anyway, I've been sick, and I haven't really been into, experimenting with the cocktails. But I did go out of my way to make a nice ginger syrup. So today I am combining that with tequila, and I have created something that I am calling the Red-Headed Rancher. And it's kind of like a riff on the ranch water. So it has
a Ranchero Pelirrojo?
A Ranchero Pelirrojo. Yeah, but I went
Red-Headed
with
Rancher.
Granjero. I have a Granjero Pelirrojo.
That's true, you do, yeah.
Fine, that's what it is. Yes, you're right. Spanish is better. It's a Ranchero Pelirrojo. And it has 2 ounces of tequila. Any kind of tequila is fine. It has, it has 1.5 ounces of my ginger syrup because it was a little less syrupy than I was anticipating. And it just came shooting out of the jar, and I overpoured it. And I just went with it. But I would use less than that. I would use maybe 3/4 ounce. And then I top that off with club soda, and I put that in a highball glass with ice. And that is how you make the Ranchero Pelirrojo. And that's what I'm drinking today, Bob.
That's a tasty cocktail.
It's really good when you accidentally overpour the ginger syrup. Yeah.
It's like a soft drink.
Yeah, basically.
What are you drinking, Matthew?
All right. Thanks, Bob. I am drinking something that I am calling Mateo Cain. And, Giants fans might recognize Mateo Cain as the Spanish version of all-time Giant great Matt Cain. And so what's in a Mateo Cain? Well, like Ben, it's got 2 ounces of Añejo Tequila, 1/4 ounce of Licor 43, or Licor 43, 1/4 ounce of cinnamon syrup, 2 dashes of orange bitters, and 1 dash of ginger bitters. And you're going to put those in a mixing glass with ice, give it a good stir for about 30 seconds, strain it into a rocks glass with a big chunk of ice, spritz a little orange oils over the top and drop an orange peel in there. And you've got this nice spark. It's a spicy but bright tequila drink that number 43 Matt Cain hopefully would be proud of. So that's what I'm drinking today, Bob, the Mateo Cain.
That's a tasty cocktail.
Yes, it is.
You tied Licor 43 to Matt Cain's number.
I did. And it's interesting because there were actually a lot of 43s in Giant history, including like Matt Cain's number got no respect, man. It's
they've just reused it, like they've just handed it out.
Yeah, so there's so the other one was like Jake Peavy was another. Not gonna couldn't call it a Jake Peavy, and then Tristan Beck was the most recent to wear 43.
Well, those are both decent guys.
Yeah, I guess their character matters, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, whose character doesn't matter. That's a rough. I'm going with it. I'm going with it.
Just go.
Because at
this point, we don't really care about his character, right? At this point, we just want him to pitch.
No, we don't care about anything. Especially I'm especially annoyed after his last outing before today, as we record this podcast. He said somebody asked him, what have you learned about through this whole experience? He says, well, I learned that spring training really matters. I don't know, Matthew, that quote just really just irritates me. Irritates me. But the whole Blake Snell experience irritates me. And even that term irritates me because that's what everybody said. They were talking about, oh, Blake Snell, he's really great, but he barely pitches 5 innings and he walks a lot of dudes. I'm like, that doesn't sound great. And they're like, yeah, but Cy Young Award.
Yeah, once every 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. So I think the question that I want to ask today is, I don't think at this point, because for those of you who don't know, by some miracle, Blake Snell once again failed to pitch beyond the 5th inning because, in fact, he re-injured his adductor, aka groin, in the 4th inning today, midway through an at bat, and had to leave the game and was almost certainly going to go back on the IL. And I think at this point, now that he's doing his 2nd stint on the IL, he has pitched horribly in most of his games. And I will grant you, not all of that has been his fault. He doesn't get any help whatsoever from the guys who come in after him.
He didn't today, that's for sure.
He didn't today. Well, and he didn't when, Sean Jelly. I think Sean Jelly, the last bad thing Sean Jelly did was give up that grand slam.
Yeah.
And so, but nonetheless, it was Blake Snell who let those guys get on base and then couldn't finish the inning. And I get it, today's a little different because of the injury. But when you combine all of those things together, I think we've reached the point where he is just at this point nothing to get excited about or really even think about. Right? The next time he shows up on a mound pitching for the San Francisco Giants, I think our assumption should be he's going to pitch 3 innings and it probably isn't going to go very well. And I don't even think we can hope that he begins to turn it around, right? I think it's just sort of just assume this is a quasi bullpen game and you just kind of close your eyes and think of England. You know what I mean?
Well, I think at this point with Blake Snell, if he comes back, who knows when that's going to happen, but he will get an opportunity to pitch again. And I'm wondering if, the strategy now might be to you called the bullpen game, have an opener for Blake Snell, and then let Blake Snell empty his bullets in 3 innings, and then you get the best of Blake Snell for 3 innings. And that may be all you can ask for, because he's not going to give you much more than that anyway. And you might as well put it into a scenario where maybe he's getting off against, some of the lower parts of the batting order. And, I don't know, just let him, he's not, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I don't want to talk about this dude anymore. That's what I want to say.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the point. That's a baseball strategy that you could do with Blake Snell. But here's my point. I don't want to talk about Blake Snell, the baseball strategy problem. What I want to talk about is Blake Snell, the big, huge off-season signing, the big name that everybody wanted after Shohei and Yamamoto were not available. I want to talk about that guy who has turned out to be an utter and total disaster and disappointment, and what we as fans should expect from him going forward. And the way I'm going to approach it is just, I'm not going to expect anything. In fact, I'm going to expect bad things, right? But I'm also fairly confident that the Giants are probably going to start expecting bad things too, and so they'll be a little bit more prepared to not let him go so far.
Yeah.
Right? And so for me, it's just sort of like, I totally agree with you. Like, I don't want to talk about him anymore either. Like, I don't think at this point, it's like he's not, especially because of the second injury, this is not a guy you can be like, oh, he's a second half guy and he's going to turn it around. Like, I don't know. This doesn't look like the other seasons of Blake Snell.
No.
This looks like a very different version of Blake Snell. This looks like dumpster fire Snell. And I think that's just the way I'm going to approach it as a fan, which is just like, I'm not going to get my hopes up. I'm not going to get super excited. I'm not going to cross my fingers. I'm just going to like take a deep breath and maybe turn the game on in the fourth inning. Like I said, close my eyes and think of England. And, it's just because like I cannot, like, there's no there anymore. Right. And I think
we haven't seen there, as Giants fans.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with that. And I think what I mean is like there was this like je ne sais quoi, this expectation.
This
right?
Je ne sais who?
It means you don't know what. That is not what that means. But anyway, what I mean, Matthew, is that like he had a sparkle to him because he was the reigning Cy Young Award winner and he was the big offseason get.
Yeah. The shininess has worn off.
That's all gone. Yeah, the shininess has worn off. And honestly, I couldn't care if we saw him again this season. I literally wouldn't care. And I think the point is that like, I think at least the very least on this show, like, I'm done talking about him. Like, I'm not going to get excited about him. I'm not going to be like, oh, looking forward to his next start. I'm probably just going to assume it's like having Kai Tang out there. Oh, well.
We might have Kai Tang.
And that might be better. Right?
Well, certainly, yeah.
Right?
I think the part that frustrating today was that he was actually pitching fairly well until that inning. So, you start to kind of get a little hope, and then, of course, that's dashed with the groin injury. And
yeah, I mean, and I think, that's really why I'm going where I'm going with this, is just because the injury is just such a big setback,
Turns out spring training's important, Ben.
Turns out spring training is important. And yes, I mean, I will agree that, as I said at the beginning of this segment, he kind of got hosed by the bullpen. Right? Like,
well, sure, you'd like a guy like Miller to come in and like bail him out. And,
or a guy like Jelly to bail him out.
Right.
And they did exactly the opposite. It's not even like one of the guys scored. It's like every guy he left on, and it's a lot because, Blake Snell, they all score. And so I think that really kind of ties us into the main thing that we want to talk about today, which is, we have a really good bullpen, Matthew, and we have a pretty good front four of the rotation right now. But it really feels like this part of the team that is supposed to be super strong, our main strength, is never more than just pretty good. Right? Like, They don't come through in those massive clutch moments. And I'm not saying that they haven't had great moments this season. They have. But I feel like there haven't been enough of them. And I think, I think that points to everybody, right? It's like Tyler Rogers in his one closing opportunity. It's like Camilo today against a very, very tough lineup, right? In a closing, he's supposed to be one of the best closers in baseball. He should be able to do that. And a lot of times Logan Webb has, he's supposed to be our ace. And he's had at least 3 games where he just was not. And, Kyle Harrison, supposed to be this big, huge phenom coming out of the minor leagues, and he's been fine. But he hasn't been a lot more than fine.
No.
And I guess that's like, that's my question. Where's the clutch?
I don't even think we're at clutch. I think you want it to be at least average, and we're not even that. I mean, you look at like team ERA, and the Giants are 26th in the major leagues in team ERA. They're 27th in the major leagues in WHIP. So you can't sit here and say we have a good pitching staff. I mean, I think anecdotally we think, oh, wow, these players are good, but collectively it just hasn't been. And so in a game like today, right, the offense puts up 5 runs against a tough team. You go into the 9th expecting up by 2, expecting a win. And, unfortunately,
Camilo's on fire.
No, Bob.
No, Bob.
No, not today. Not the right time to be saying that.
Yeah, no, not the right.
Anyway, yeah, Camilo comes in and lays an egg, right? Right, Bob?
Our bullpen sucks.
That's right.
Yeah, that's more like it, Bob. That's more like it. And it doesn't suck, but as Matthew says, it's not doing the things that it needs to do in the clutch moments.
Yeah, I mean, you expect somebody like Camilo Duvall to come in. You expect him. I mean, he's one of the best closers in baseball. And sometimes you need the best closer in baseball to be the best closer in baseball. And instead, he challenges Juan Soto with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, and Juan Soto sends it, into the stands. And so it's maddening. And, this is the team that, we're supposed to win on defense and pitching, and we can't even get the pitching that we thought we were going to get. And so I just think that there's a lot of things wrong with this team, Ben. And I don't know if there's anything that can be done to turn things around. The only thing that we can be hopeful for is that they go through another one of those little win streak spurts that gets them 2 games over 500 and they sneak into a 3rd wild card spot. That's I think that's the best case scenario for the Giants. And maybe it always has been for this year, because they certainly haven't played to the level that you would expect for them to be more competitive.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And I do think they still have the ability to hover around there and keep competing for that 3rd wild card.
Right. As Bob said, it's hard work being average. I mean, they can do it, though.
That's right. They're working really hard to be average. And so, I do think that is the team that we're talking about. Like, I think all of the hopes and expectations that we had from the beginning of the season are totally gone, right? Like the idea that this was going to be a team that was competing for the 1st wild card spot, was going to cruise into the playoffs, is just not happening. A team that was going to be pushing 90 wins, not happening, right? Like, we have to certainly dial back our expectations. But I still believe that if this team is going to do it, it has to do it on the back of the pitching. And I know you said that the average, that the Giants WHIP is, what did you say,
27th?
27th? And what is that? What is the average WHIP? Do you know?
Yeah, I could tell you where. Tell you what 15 was. That is 1.27. So, and we are at we're at 1.35.
Well, I mean, I will tell you this: like, the Giants have Ryan Walker, Sean Jelly, Jordan Hicks, Tyler Rogers, Randy Rodriguez, Taylor Rogers, Eric Miller, and Logan Webb are all above the average in WHIP. Okay. Keaton Wynn, Kyle Harrison, Camilo Duvall, and especially Blake Snell are all below it. So, and those are the qualified guys. They have quite a few other guys who are below it. Tyler Fitzgerald, by the way, not a good pitcher. In case you were not sure.
Good thing we're not really counting on him. Yeah.
Yeah. But Kaiwei Tang, also Mitch White, Dalton Jeffries, those guys really hurt the Giants quite a bit. Nick Avila, and then Mason Black, right? All of those guys, those are really the numbers that really bog the Giants down. And the good news is all those guys are off. None of them are on the roster right now.
You say that, and you look at the WHIP for the Giants in the month of May, and they're 25th. So there's no recency getting better thing. This is the way they are. You can spin it all you want, Mr. Numbers guy, but they just they're suck, and it's not looking pretty no matter how you spin these numbers. And so there either has to be a complete like turnaround by some of these players, or it's wrong. You look at a stat that's like what's their whip when they're close, a game that's close. They're like 18th in the majors. They're not better than average in any major statistical pitching category, and except maybe ground balls. And so, but even then, that doesn't keep a guy like Aaron Judge in the park or Juan Soto in the park. Just ask Jordan Hicks.
Right. Well, let's do a deep dive then. Like, if you're talking about how things aren't getting better in the month of May, and like I keep laying everything on at the feet of Dalton Jeffries and Nick Avila and of course Blake Snell. But you're saying that everybody else in May hasn't been that great. Let's go to the stats. Let's see who's been good in May. Ryan Walker in May, 0.85 whip. But just yesterday got roughed up by the Yankees. Right? And so even there's a guy who is dominant and really good, but in a really clutch moment, I don't know. I guess the saying is they can't always be perfect. But with this offense, you kind of need to always be perfect. Sean Jelly, 0.98 in May. Tyler Rogers, 1.05. But again, brutal blown save. Luke Jackson, 1.1. Taylor Rogers, 1.1. Randy Rodriguez, 1.1. Logan Webb, 1.2. Spencer Howard, 1.25. And then this is where a lot of these guys have had very different innings all over time, but that's just, this is where things start to get worse, right? Jordan Hicks, 1.36. Camilo Doval, 1.4. And I know that hasn't resulted in a lot of blown saves, but like he's had a couple recently, and as much as he's my favorite player, he's got to step it up. He's got to start being elite. Eric Miller, a guy that we've sung tons of praises around, 1.4. Kyle Harrison, 1.5. And then there's Nick Avila, do I even need to say? Mason Black, 1.9. Blake Snell, 2.05. Mitch White pitched in May.
Briefly.
Blocked it out.
Yes.
Blocked it out. 2.31. Dalton Jeffries, 2.63. And then Keaton Wynn, who before he went on the IL had 3 bad starts in a row, 2.64. So, yeah, I would say a lot of the guys that we do rely on are starting to fade, especially Eric Miller, Kyle Harrison, and Camilo. But even then, it's like the guys who are doing well just having these brutal one-off bad games, and it's not like they just give up 1 run. It's like 3 runs. It's like a losing moment in the game, and it's like if this is supposed to be the strength of the team, it's becoming a weakness.
Well, and I think today when Camilo Doval was going through his problems in the 9th inning, at one point the cameras look up at him, and it was after he'd given up I think he'd given up, maybe it was the home run. So he looked into the dugout like it was like he was expecting someone to come out and get him. And I don't know, it just feels like that mentality, just, I don't know. You hate to kind of put words in someone's mouth, but it just seemed like he wasn't there, and he didn't want to be there. And I just, those are the types of moments though where you need a guy like Camilo Doval to come through, and he didn't. And so it's just, and you're right. It seems like that happens at the inopportune times for a lot of these guys, because overall you can anecdotally and even with their numbers say, oh, they're pretty good. But then we can also point to a particular game or a particular moment where they gave up some runs in really, really bad moments that cost them games. And so, maybe I'm sure there's stats that we could dig into about, that, but it comes down to it is you got to perform when you need to. And a lot of these guys haven't.
Well, within the last 10 games, I think you can point to 2 of Camilo Doval's appearances, and you can point, or maybe even 3, and you can point to Ryan Walker, and you can point to Tyler, and all of whom, most of those guys, Walker and Rogers especially, and they have good stats, right? Like Camilo's whip is not so great, right? And he's looked a little rough. He's getting a lot of guys on base. But these other guys, they've been really, really dominant. But amongst those 3 guys, you can point to like 4 games where you're just like, they got torched, and it cost us. If in 3 of those games, well, one of them didn't cost them, but 2 of them were blown saves that the Giants lost because of it in the 9th. And then one of them they hung on to win, and then one of them, they were close, and then the Yankees just pulled away. And it just feels like even the good guys are blowing up in big ways at just the most inopportune moments. And it's like you just need a guy to step in there and step it up, right? And like I think this is the kind of guy that Logan Webb wants to be, and I know Logan Webb's a starter. We're talking about relievers in this amongst those 4 guys, but like 3 guys. But Logan Webb wants to be that guy, right? He wants to be the stopper. But how many times this year have we seen him come in and just get, single home run?
Especially in the first inning. Yeah.
In the first inning.
Yeah.
And then they're fighting and clawing from behind. And it's just like, again, like we need a guy who can just come in and be reliable and locked down. And it feels like nobody is that right now. And I feel like Ryan Walker was close to that, but even then, I think there's probably 2 instances where you're like, nope. And maybe the expectations there are too high, and maybe I'm over-indexing on the fact that the offense is so bad that we have to rely on pitching, and like maybe we're asking too much. But it just feels like if this is going to be your strength, it really needs to be a strength. And it feels like these guys should be able to do it, but they aren't. And I don't know. I mean, I don't even know that there's anything to be done to fix it, right? Because I'm sure they're trying. But it's frustrating, Matthew.
It is frustrating.
It's frustrating. Like, I want to see Logan Webb go out there and throw 8 innings or a complete game, right? Against a great team. I want to see Camilo come in and blow the Yankees away. Right? I want to see Ryan Walker keep them down by a run so that the Giants can walk it off in the bottom of the 9th. I want to see Tyler like lock down the game when Camilo's not available. And instead, we're just getting rubber ducks everywhere. Barfing up rubber ducks.
I don't even know what to say.
You don't know what to say to that?
It's true.
It's true. It's true.
All right, I'm tired of talking about the pitching. But let's talk about something positive, or at least something interesting. The young guys continue to be a narrative in our season. We got Casey Schmidt came up this week because we sent somebody down, or somebody got hurt. That's right, Luciano got hurt with his hamstring. Yep. And so, and similar to when he came up last year, Casey Schmidt has come up and has been on fire. He's batting .500. In his first 8 at-bats. He had a home run. He's hit 2 home runs in those 8 at-bats. So a healthy, really good Casey Schmidt could go a long way to kind of keeping things afloat. And then there's the never will be Heliot Ramos, Ben, that continues to impress. And today they moved him into the leadoff spot because Matos has been struggling, and Ramos had a really good game again, and including a home run. So I guess if you want to be encouraged, that's where to be encouraged, that these young guys look like they could be legitimate players instead of just role players that we might see for flashes of the pan. Because for me as a Giants fan, I try not to get too excited about these guys because I feel like in the past we get excited about a young guy that comes up and then we never hear from them again. And it feels different this time. It feels like these guys could be key components to this team.
Well, I think one thing that's really significant is that the attitude around them as players seems to be different this year. And I think that part of that is Farhan changing his mentality, and I think part of that is Gabe Kapler being gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think Gabe Kapler, and I don't want to say that it's Kapler because really a lot of this philosophy comes from Farhan. But like last year, it really felt like the young guys were there to fill a need. And if they couldn't fill that need, then you just chucked them back into AAA. You didn't give them even more than a game or two to figure things out. And then a lot of times, even if they did well, it really felt like they were looking at other analytics, like pitch selection. Like Gabe Kapler was just huge into pitch selection, right? But then also things like velocity, velo, and launch angle, right? So even if they were getting the results, it would be like, oh, well, the results were good, but the analytics were bad.
Yeah.
I feel like that attitude is gone this year, right? And I especially think like somebody like Ramos, who established himself clearly as, I think in spring training, and then went down to Sacramento and was doing really, really well. And then he comes here and he's continued that, right? Like, even if you look at just the last 7 games, he's after Brett Wisely and Tyro Estrada, he's who are tied for first. He's the 3rd best hitter on the team in terms of average, right? He's hitting 300 with a 391 OBP. His slugging percentage is not so great, but he hit a home run today.
Yeah.
And so, like he's a guy who has continued to play well throughout this entire time. And Farhan Zaidi said he's not going back. And he didn't even say that. He said he's not leaving the lineup.
Right.
And I don't
Which
think
is hard to do when he's one of your best hitters, right?
Well, exactly. And I think that's, I don't think he would speak out of turn without Melvin having already knowing that that's what Melvin felt as well. And so, so that's really exciting. And that's a big change from last year. And I thought he was and never will be because, every time he came up, he didn't do much. But you know what? I was probably, well, number one, I'm an idiot, right? Okay, so there's that. But number two, he was very young. He's only 24 this year.
Yeah.
A lot of good major leaguers start their careers at 24, and so 24 is actually a very nice year to get started. You can have a very good career starting that year. So I'm not, I wouldn't be surprised if he totally proves me wrong and sticks in.
I think if you're looking for a place looking at how players develop, and these young guys, especially over the last few years, I think when you can tell when they've turned the corner is when their walk rate goes up. And that's certainly been the case with Ramos. I mean, Ramos has 9 walks already this year. But then you look at players like Brett Wisely, Casey Schmidt, who notoriously has had a hard time drawing walks. Luis Matos even this year only has 3 walks and 82 at bats. So they still have some learning to do in terms of being patient and being with the strike zone and making, kind of turning themselves into, the ideal is someone like Lamont Wade Jr., right? Where you can spit on the strike zone and not go chasing out and all that. And right. I think that takes time and it takes experience, and you hope that they get there. But you don't know. And so I think these guys are still a little bit of a work in progress, but then you look at Ramos's numbers and he looks like he's arrived. It looks like all the numbers across the board indicate that he's a pretty good all around player.
Right. And I think, unfortunately, the opposite is kind of the trend for Matos, right?
Yes. Yeah. He's now he's batting .220 on the season, so it's definitely after a really hot stretch there for like a week or so or a few days, he's definitely come down to earth a little bit to the point where they're moving him down in the batting order, right? So right. I think they've kind of recognized that as well. Well,
and so to your point, he's only walked 3 times, whereas Ramos has walked 9. Right, 3 times as many times.
Yeah,
and they don't have exactly the same number of plate appearances, but
they're close.
No, they
actually.
do. They're very close.
They're close.
Yeah. Matos has 82 and Ramos has 88, and Ramos has walked 3 times as many times. Right, and that also just means like if that's how many times he's walked, think of how many more pitches he's seen, and right. Pitches that he's not swinging outside of the strike zone, and so that does seem to be that they're going opposite directions there. To your point, though, I'm trying to find Mr. Wisely on this list.
He's pretty high up. Let's look higher, Ben.
He's higher? Where is he? I can't see him. I'm blind. I have Brett Wisely blindness.
For all positions for the season, he's batting .333, which would be our third.
Yeah, no,
highest.
I was talking about walk rate. How many walks?
Okay.
How many?
Well,
walks
he's had 0.
did he
So look all the way down to the bottom because he hasn't walked once this year.
Okay. See, and that's
what I mean. That's what I mean. Like that's that evolution that you hope. I mean, Casey Schmidt also hasn't walked. So it's just these are the things that you need to see to kind of take them to that next level.
Right. Casey hasn't walked and he's had 26 plate appearances. And so I think when you look at both Wisely and Schmidt, you just hope that, okay, well, keep hitting them balls, yes. and you just hope that lasts for as long as you possibly can. But it almost feels like, and I think I've seen this a lot from Wisely. It does feel like he likes that high off the plate fastball.
Yeah. And probably everybody in the majors recognizes it.
Yeah. And I think they're just going to keep moving it further and further out and see what he'll swing at. And at some point they're going to reach a point where he can't hit it, and then they'll just throw it there. And I think that will be ultimately his downfall. But you know what? Like, honestly, it doesn't matter if he's swinging at balls if they're landing for hits, right?
Right.
And
get on base, whether it's by walk or hit. And if you're hitting, then you can forgive that a little bit. But over the long haul, generally you need walks to help supplement your on base percentage because you're not going to get it strictly from hits.
Yeah, I mean, so you hope that you've got a little bit of lightning in a bottle with Wisely and Schmidt, and you just kind of need to ride that. And the good news is that they're both in positions where you're kind of waiting for the starter to come back, and so really any offense that you're getting out of them at all is gravy because the starter when he comes back he's not going to hit.
Yeah.
Because he's Nick Ahmed. So.
Well, to the point about the walks being important, one of the reasons that Brett Wisely is doing so well so far is that he's got a .407 batting average on balls in play, which is not someone's not going to maintain that over a course of a season. So he definitely needs the walks to kind of as that batting average on balls in play comes down to normal.
Yeah, and I feel like he's going the other way a lot. He's hitting a lot of stuff that's landing between the infield and the outfield, and teams will start to shorten that up. Right. And they're going to, So all of those numbers are going to come down. But I think, you just hope that, you just ride that until you can. And then you hope that your other veteran guys heat up to get back to where we were, about, a week ago, where we were scoring 4 or 5 runs every single game. But I do think that regardless of all of those things, when we're just talking about just to keep it on the young guys, the one guy that I'm really disappointed with, and I think the biggest question mark is because we're talking about on base percentage here and walks, is Marco Luciano, because his on base percentage is very high.
Yeah,
and
very limited at bats, but yeah,
sure, right. But how many walks did he have?
He had 3 walks in 24 plate appearances.
Yeah, right. And here you're talking about Brett Wisely and Casey Schmidt. In all of their combined at-bats, no walks.
Right.
And Matos, right? So you throw, Matos has 3 walks. So you throw all of those together, and Luciano has just as many as those 3 guys combined in much, much less plate appearances. You're talking about a hitter who is really, really being selective at the plate. But he doesn't have a position, and he's hurt.
Why you gotta remind us of that, Ben?
Well, I'm just
trying to feel good about this at the end here.
Well, but Ramos.
Okay, Ramos. Yes, yeah. Let's finish with that.
You know what? I will say this. We don't think of him as a young player anymore, but this is a guy that at the beginning of the season, because I'm the naysayer, I felt like he was a 220 hitter, was Patrick Bailey.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't even think of him as a young player anymore. Right? Right? He's sort of a bedrock. He's one of our better players. And I think it's clearly established that no. He is a substantially better hitter than 220. And I think we can expect him to be, overall a very, very good, well-rounded player, not just a defensive catcher. And
agreed. It's been really impressive to see his at-bats, and especially in crucial moments the last week or two. And so Yeah, no, it's been great to see Patrick Bailey swinging the bat the way he has.
Right, 298 batting average.
Yeah, 354 on base. Definitely some good number. 819 OPS. He's got some power, hitting a little. He's got 4 home runs on the year. So he's even got a couple stolen bases, Ben. I mean, which probably leads the team.
Crazy. It probably does. Probably does. Here, I'm going to rank them by stolen bases. Oh my goodness. Okay, here's Ben's trivia question. Who leads the team in stolen bases, Matthew?
I just looked it up. I wouldn't have guessed. I would have guessed Tyler
Chapman.
Fitzgerald, but it's not. Yes, it's Matt Chapman. Good old Speedy Chapman.
Yeah, with 5 stolen bases, and Tyler Fitzgerald has 4. And then, yes, Patrick Bailey, 3rd on the team with 2. He's tied with...
Jung Hoo Lee.
He's tied with Jung Hoo Lee.
He has 1 more than Tyro Estrada, which I wouldn't have bet ever.
No. A bunch of guys have 1 stolen base. Wow, I thought we wanted
0.
Yeah, we wanted to end this on a positive note, and now we're looking at stolen bases. I don't know how did this happen?
Because we're Giants fans, and that's just what we do.
That's just what we do. This is what we do. But anyway, my point is the best young player of them all, Patrick Bailey.
All right, let's end it there. I think it's time to get to the trivia question, Ben. So the trivia question was, other than Brett Wisely, who has been the only Giants player to wear number 0? And that, my friend, is not... Who did you say? I forget now.
A.J. Pierzynski.
Not A.J. Pierzynski. It was
Shocking.
Al Oliver. And
right.
Al Oliver, it's funny because if you're as old as us, you might remember from he had a couple good years with the Toronto. I don't know. He was one of the Canadian teams. I remember as a kid.
Yeah, the Toronto Expos or something.
Yeah, Montreal. It was Montreal, and he was a 4-time. Well, he's a 7-time All-Star, and the Giants picked him up in a spring training trade right before the '84 season, and he played well for the Giants that year. He batted 298 with a 339 on base and was doing great. The only problem was that the Giants were on their way to losing 96 games that year. So he was traded at the trade deadline. And the only name, it's so funny when you look at trades because, the most trades you see names that you just never hear from again, right? And the only names that was Kelly Downs. Do you remember Kelly Downs, the pitcher for the Giants?
I do remember Kelly Downs.
Yeah, so the Giants traded Al Oliver to Philadelphia for Kelly Downs and a guy named George Riley, and Kelly Downs became a starting pitcher for the Giants.
I think he lost a no-hitter very late. I might be confusing him with Scott Carrelts. I can't remember.
So Al Oliver, honorable mention could go to Leonard Hackman, Jeffrey Hackman Leonard, who had a 00, right?
One flap down.
That's right. So the Hackman were 00, but Al Oliver and Brett Wisely are the only ones ever to wear 0 for the Giants. All right, next up, Ben, the Arizona D-Bags. We traveled to Arizona over the next few days to take on the D-Bags, who are, they were the National League pennant winner last year. This year, they're struggling more than the Giants. They're 27-32, a game and a half behind the Giants. They are in 4th place in the NL West.
Boy, was I wrong about them.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people were. You figured that young athleticism was going to carry them, and they made some really good moves to shore up some spots, and then none of that has panned out, which is just baseball, right? And but they do have the talent that maybe they could be a problem. So we'll see what the Giants can do. This Giants fan has no expectations. I'm just going to go in there and hope for the best.
Yeah. What's really interesting? Corbin Carroll.
Oh, my God. Talk about going from like the penthouse to the cellar, right?
His batting average is 197 after hitting 285 last year. His on-base percentage is 280 after doing 362 last year. His slugging percentage is 289 after doing 506 last year. His OPS plus last year, 135. This year, he's 65.
Well, and reminder, not only did he win Rookie of the Year last year, he was also 5th place in MVP voting. Yeah. That's how good of a year he had last year.
Crazy. But at the same time, he's only 23, so...
Yeah, he's got a little time to figure it out.
He does. He's 1 year younger than Elliot Ramos.
And yeah.
he's older than Matos, though, so...
Okay, I'll take that. Yeah. These young guys are learning, right?
That's right.
All right. Well, that's all we got, folks. Don't forget to follow us on the socials at Giant Cocktails on Twitter, Instagram, Mastodon, and Threads. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on whatever podcast listener you're listening on. And give us a good rating, a 5-star rating if you could. That would be a big help for the show. Until Wednesday night, Ben, Thursday for you listeners. Have a good one. We'll talk to you soon. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers, Matthew. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Giant Cocktails Podcast. Until next time, bottoms up.
You know what we didn't talk about? We didn't talk about stupid Aaron Judge, who clearly made the worst decision of his life when he decided to return to the Yankees.
That's right. Arson Judge, who would be on pace to hit 120 home runs or something like that.
He would be on pace to hit 75 home runs at home. If he was playing for the Giants right now. Instead, here's what's he's going to fade off into the distance, and he's going to be one of the greats who didn't quite make the Hall of Fame. Instead of becoming the most prodigious home run hitter ever, regularly hitting 100+ home runs every year.
Yeah, I will say though, I was satisfied with the amount of booing he was getting.
Yeah, that's good. He's good. He deserved it. It. Yeah.
Good
And then
job,
he was
Giants
probably
fans that were there.
Yeah, and but he's probably all being all cocky, like, oh, I should look at you. Look at how many home runs I hit. I'm like, yeah, exactly. Idiot.